right. Hey everybody, I'm Mike and I'm with
Deb.
And we're super excited that you're here with us today. And again, we have an amazing guest today that we're super excited to share with you. Behind the scenes, before we started recording, just getting to know our guest today. And it was funny. We should have been recording it because there was just a lot of positive energy that was just flowing. And it's really cool what happens when you bring like-minded individuals together that are just out there trying to just be an encouragement, be that light for that next person, whether you're going through a grocery store line, at the supermarket, at the neighborhood retail, whatever the case may be, at church, at home, community center, but you're just that light where people are just wondering like, hey, I want to get to know that person because just being in their presence kind of brightened my day. And how many of us know that we have enough negative in the world, so we're trying to just gravitate to what's encouraging. And I left our pre-meeting with Dr. Jamila Williams very, very encouraged and just ready to go and take the world by storm. And there's this book I want to share with you. It's a book that she had written. It's called You Are Able. And this is a book that's in response to the worst day of her life, which was August 12th of 2016. And I don't want to give away what the book's about. We'll let Dr. Jamila, Dr. J share that with you. But beforehand, I want to give it over to Deb and let Deb do what she does best.
Well, thanks, Mike. We're just so pleased that our message is getting out to all of you, and you are responding, and you're bringing us people. Dr. J, if I may, was brought to us by Madeline Shirley, who was our prior guest on the show, and we're just thrilled for the referrals that are coming our way, and thank you for doing that, and please continue to do that. We are delighted to have you with us. It's just such a pleasure to meet you, and I love it when women are empowered and they want to go out and share the message. So I'm going to share a little bit about Dr. J with you. Amazing bio, 30 years of educational career as a teacher in the Oregon area, and boy, what a transformation to come down to Arizona. Wow, I hope it wasn't during the summer, right? It was, of course. And then she went ahead to proceed to get her doctorate in educational leadership, and that is amazing. But as Mike had shared with you a moment ago, one of the caveats that brought her to the place that she is and in writing the book that she did was the passing away of your mom. And I'm sorry for that. I walked in those same shoes, and it was one of the longest journeys. It was a labor of love. I'd do it all over again, as I'm sure you would as well. But that's what kind of spawned and inspired her to write the book that she did. And I love the title, You Are Able. And the ABLE stands for awesome, bold, legendary, and empowered. And it was designed, and I really kind of hung on this sentence, from a position of feeling shattered to a position of feeling confident and empowered. I got goosebumps just then thinking about that too. So you've done your job well. And in doing this, what she's succeeded in taking that to the next level is sharing it with women especially that are just striving, whether are they primarily senior citizens for the most part? Is that safe to say?
Or kind of all ages,
Okay.
But mostly, as you say, it goes into the senior citizens where you have that loss, and what do you do?
Right. So it is just so awesome that you can reach out and touch them and guide them into learning to live a more successful life, become more successful I'm tongue-tied. Say it for me, Mike. Entrepreneur. Is that
Entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur.
Yes.
And honestly, I minored in entrepreneurship. Not that this is about me, but I never really learned how to spell the word entrepreneurship either. So there's your fun fact for the day.
Well,
so you can't pronounce it, I can't spell it. So we make a good team.
It was one of those where I couldn't get my, foot out of my mouth quickly enough, and I was chewing vigorously. So thanks for saving me on that one. But it's especially important to, I think, what you're doing in showing women how to pick up the pieces and move on. Some of the dialogue that Mike was sharing with you before we started the video, it was incredible, the story about your grandmother and so forth, and how she picked up the pieces after her husband passed. So there are paths, but it's through tools such as your book that we get to that point, and they help us move on. So tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are. Especially, I had never heard of a doctorate in educational leadership. Why don't you begin by defining that for us?
Well, educational leadership is not just like the administrators, but it's just, a lot of people are leaders and you just don't think about it. I was in the educational system through my career, and so that's what came about that. So they just teach you how to listen to people, how to get through critical situations, how to move forward, how to be a guide, those different kind of things in specializing. My specialization was curriculum and instruction. So a teacher to the heart. And when you have that leadership in you, that teacher in you, you just want to find a way to help everybody. And that's just kind of what I wanted to do, is be able to reach out and help people in various areas. And so even though I'm not still in a school per se, through life, you're still educating people. You're still teaching it, whether it's one-on-one or a group of people. So that's how that all came about.
Love it.
Well, that's remarkable, because there's so many definitions out there. I mean, it used to be there was a Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science, and that was it. You went one road or the other. So thank you for defining that, and how wonderful to know exactly what it is. I wouldn't have put those two together, but I can see it in the works now.
Thank you.
So aside from your own experience in losing your mother and feeling that grief and being torn apart, what were some of the other guiding lights, if you will, that drew you into the book writing that you did?
Well, kind of looking at the way that came about is when my mom passed away, we were visiting her sister, who they said was going to pass away. And so it was such a shock when it was my mom. And we were sharing a room at my cousin's house. And so after my mom had passed, then, in fact, when she first passed, I was in the room with her. I was in the bed with her. We shared a bed. And, you hear that final breath, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm, Mom, what's wrong? And so, we made it through that. Ambulance came, she was breathing again, but she never regained. And so when I went back into the room where we both had been in, my mom's things were there and everything, I was crushed. I was just, Lord, take me. I'm only child. My mom lived with me, and it was just, my life is over. And so I kept hearing, you are able. And I was like, Lord, you got the wrong girl. This girl's not able to move on. So you talk to somebody else. Just take me. And I kept hearing, you are able. You are able. And so I started researching words that end with able. And there's a lot of words out there, capable and available and all those kind of positive words. And I started thinking, if I'm feeling what I'm feeling, there's other people that may be feeling this.
The same way.
And then when 2020 came and people were told that they weren't essential workers, they were told their job is over. There were a lot more, people think of grief just in death, but a divorce is grief. You grieve losing your job when you have no other way to take care of your family. Those are all things. And so a lot of that played into me writing the book, and just wanting to reach out to people, especially women, and letting them know that they are able to make it in life. There's other things that they can do.
I can so relate to what you just said. I am also, or was, an only child. And the bond, I think, with only children and their mothers it's like glue. And I felt very strongly the way you did when I lost my mother, and she was also an educator.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of ironic that our paths cross, but I
Yes.
can certainly relate to what you're saying, and what a poignant story. Thank you for sharing that with us. What has been the most gratifying experience you think you've had and touching women that have read the book and coming back to you and saying, Dr. J, you did this for me? Give us one of those experiences.
Well, when I first had the book published, I had a website, and I received an email from a young lady that had lived down the street from me when my kids were young. She was a playmate with my kids and everything, and she was like, you may not remember me, but, and of course I did, but she was saying how her parents had just passed. And she was in that spot of grief. And she read my book, and that helped her to figure out what her next steps was and where to move forward to. And she thanked me. And I mean, that was worth writing the whole book
Right there.
to me. I mean, just, I knew, and I actually knew the person, which made it even more personal.
Right.
So,
And that thank you carried you a long way, and just think of what the book has done for those that were in need. And I think you said it well too, that grief isn't necessarily about losing someone in death. It can be losing a job. And so many people experienced a different type of grief when we were all in that lockdown COVID period. You know, it's hard to describe what one goes through, especially if you're siloed for a long period of time.
Right.
And so that probably brought a lot of solace to many people, and just being able to, you know, pick themselves up and saying, I can go forward.
right.
So
Yes.
that's awesome. Well, what is it that your next professional endeavor leads you to?
Well, I'm in the travel industry.
Oh, wow.
And so by taking from the You Are Able and moving forward, I want people to know, especially seniors, life is not over when you retire. Life is just beginning, and you've got to get out and see the world and travel. And, you know, just make it to go to different places. And there's more people now that are doing solo travel.
Right.
So it's okay if you're by yourself and you don't have anybody to go with you. Even on the cruises now, they're making cabins that are for solo people, so you don't have to pay twice as much. So get out and see the world. Take your friends with you or go by yourself, but don't just sit at home
and eat bonbons on the
right.
couch. That's my expression. No, I totally agree with that, and I know Mike shares the same sentiment. That was one of the reasons we started doing what we're doing right now, is that we wanted people to realize that just because you are a senior doesn't mean that's the last phase of your life. In many instances, you can create it to be the most robust, finest period of your life you've ever had, and traveling certainly are the sprinkles on the cupcake.
It is. And also, you know, I've come across people that have retired, have nothing else to do, may need some money, and then they go and work at some store or anything. But become a travel agent. Then you could travel, save money, and make money, and help other people.
Yeah,
I love it.
So
That's a good hack.
Yeah, it is. It is, and that's kind of, you know, like I said, that's what I'm pursuing. It's like, become a travel agent and do a family cruise. Do, you know, you're already preparing. A lot of people are already doing it anyway, and this way you get to see the world, save money, and make money.
I love it.
I do too. Well, Dr. J, it's been a pleasure having you here with us. You certainly taken our message and conveyed it just the way we would like for you to, and telling people, don't give up. don't sit in the chair and eat bonbons. Go traveling, write a book,
Yes.
host a show, do whatever. And please, as we've said before, bring us others that are just like Dr. J,
Absolutely.
that have that enthusiasm that we do. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, it was so nice to meet you, and I know the tribe's gonna enjoy this as well. Just real quick before we wrap up this episode, where can people find your book?
It's on Amazon.
Okay.
Just go and put in "You Are Able" by Dr. Jamila Williams, and it'll come up.
And I'll also put a link on the YouTube post for this. That way you can just click on it. It'll take you right to the book. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And we would love to have you back in the future.
I'd love to come back.
And with that said, thank you for joining us. I am Mike, and I'm with
Deb,
and we will see you next time. Have a fantastic week.
thank you.
Thank you.